In the initial scene, we see a young fellow who awakens in a miserable room. He is totally neglectful of what is happening, where he is, and the way that he wound up here. He rapidly gets up and looks at the walls, wanting to discover a way, yet there is none. The room just comprises of a latrine and a shower. The man madly starts beating on the walls, requesting to be let out, yet his voice goes unheard. Well, the shower implies he has it better than 90% of individuals in this world. Not long after, he sees a turned-on PC showing the word share. He then, at that point, begins to enter various orders, trying to open the entryway, but the PC considers them invalid. It requests that he share once more, and this time the person affirms. Following this, the PC starts to record him. Imagining that someone is watching him, he starts posing a few inquiries, but gets no responses. The man then goes to use the latrine, but he realizes that there is no water, and the sink isn't working either. Subsequently, he types the water order, to which the PC responds that it equals 5. Unable to comprehend, he rests on the floor to wait. During this, a fart unintentionally escapes him, which earns him some points. These points enable him to get some water, finally quenching his thirst. After cleaning up, he realizes that this is a transmission and that real people are watching him. Idiots, the kind of people who love farts. The man then starts to fart while moving strangely around the room, but it doesn't get him enough points to buy food. Consequently, he tries a few random orders and manages to turn up the lights before going back to sleep. A brief time later, the PC beeps, reminding him to share again. The man responds by going on a rant about the ongoing situation before heading for a shower. This earns him a few points, so he quickly starts to act silly again. After gathering the points, he orders some food, but much to his consternation, he is given a bowl of dog food, a shaggy delicacy. The man decides to complain and tries to send it back, but his efforts are worthless. Left with no other choice, he begins to eat the food and even behaves like a dog for the crowd. His engaging act earns him some more points, but it's still not enough to buy proper clothes. His first attempt gets him female underwear, but despite this, he uses it to pose for the screen. After a few hours, the man breaks down in tears and falls asleep in despair. The next day, he gets a hold of himself and starts giving his all to entertain the viewers. He performs some gymnastic actions, silly dances, and spontaneous thoughts. Soon, he manages to gather enough points to buy a shirt, a mattress, and a toilet mirror. Over time, the points keep stacking up, enabling him to buy more stuff, such as clothes, shaving tools, decent food, and even some alcohol. But one day, he drinks excessively and proceeds to smash the screen with an empty bottle, causing his room to lose all power. After this, the man tries pulling the screen of the wall and also examines the food hatch but finds no way out. In a fit of anger, he punches the screen, but ends up hurting his own hand. He soon has a mental meltdown and begs to be released. After losing all his energy, he apologizes, rising to the PC for his silly behavior, pleading for another chance. The level of despair reaches its limit, and the man rests on the floor, awaiting his fate. After a while, the PC turns on, and an elderly man appears on the screen to greet him. It turns out the elderly man is also living in a similar kind of room, but he has far more stuff compared to our protagonist. He explains that sometimes there are errors in the system, but when a person reaches a certain level, they get to the common network. This means our protagonist can now communicate with other prisoners like himself. The protagonist initially believes that the elderly man is working for the unknown captors, but the latter tells him that they all woke up there just as he did, without knowing how or why. Yet, they're all pretty sure it has something to do with that mysterious block playing a trick. As the two continue conversing, we learn that the elderly man never quiets down. He jumps from one topic to another without much thought. His endless rants earn him loads of points. However, our protagonist gets annoyed by this. One night, he wakes up to the older man's cough and approaches the PC to ask about his well-being. During this, he also tries some random orders and comes across other prisoners, each having different channel numbers. Our protagonist's channel number is 14, while the older man's is 73. It turns out there are various types of content, such as cooking lessons, makeup tutorials, etc. Especially, our protagonist has his eyes focused on a beautiful woman teaching yoga. As more days pass by, 14 spends most of his time with 73, visiting, sharing meals, and even learning magic from him. At nighttime, the elderly man falls asleep while 14 connects with the yoga instructor and sends her some gifts. One morning, 14 is working on his new furniture when 73 comes to talk to him. According to the elderly man, they can't stay at one level as the viewers will stop liking them and won't pay. Therefore, they need to grow and spread their content. That's not true. You have to keep doing the same thing, or you fail. Don't they know this? Listening to his advice, 14 tries new categories. He attempts stand-up comedy, exercises, cooking, singing, and magic. All of this brings a new audience, resulting in him earning more points. He chooses to use these points to buy 73 some medicine as he's constantly coughing. While making a purchase, 14 makes an error and ends up watching the room of 11, a woman who is currently showering. She is clearly angered by such an unacceptable intrusion and yells at him, accusing him of being a pervert. Anyway, 14 rapidly explains what is going on, championing himself as a detainee just like her. So okay, he's watching her shower, you see. All at once, 73 also joins, and 11 inquires if they ever try to escape. Accordingly, 14 offers his prior conduct, which caused him to be punished. The woman feels that they should still examine all the information they have and find a weakness in the system. However, 73 tells her that she's just being condescending and shouts at her before leaving the conversation. Confused, 11 asks why they were picked, since it's strange that an organization would provide lodging and food for random strangers. 14 answers that he wasn't anyone significant, but here he got the opportunity to live a better life since now he matters to someone. This is starting to hit deep. Later on, 14 starts a small show with puppets made of socks. This entertains the viewers, and he gets rewarded with many points. The audience is pleased to finally see him going full Mel Gibson. One fine morning, he gifts Spirit a shower curtain, but it enrages her since she doesn't want to be pied. Before long, 14 entertains the crowd by showing them some drawing lessons, but since he himself is terrible at drawing, the lessons are hilarious. He eventually earns a lot of points, which he uses to get himself more furniture. Anyway, the woman can't bear her condition anymore, so she suggests that they start a revolution. This results in a heated argument among them, as 14 and 73 are convinced that it is here that they got the precious opportunity to live better than ever. That night, the elderly man starts coughing more severely than usual and even chokes on it. Furthermore, he suddenly has a seizure, and his body gets paralyzed with his face pressed against the screen. Sensing the urgency of the situation, 14 appeals to all subscribers for help, while 11 tries to find a useful command on the PC. Amidst this critical moment, 11 accidentally enters the wrong command, and as a consequence, flames start emerging from the walls. The duo watches helplessly as 73 and his entire room get engulfed by fire before the screen goes blank. This tragedy leaves them devastated, so they stay silent for some days, mourning their loss. One morning, 14 talks to 11 and tells her not to blame herself, as she was doing her best to help the elderly man. All you did was comment that his channel was on fire, he says. You could never have meant that to happen. Trying to cheer her up, he performs another puppet show. Eventually, the woman admits that she wants to get drunk and asks him to join her. They then order some alcohol and start drinking while reminiscing about their last memories of freedom. In a drunken state, they begin dancing even though there is no music. In the end, their moments take a romantic turn, and they use their hands to please themselves while looking at each other. And you can bet that the points come pouring in. The next day, as the two banter, 14 agrees with 11's old plan. All the individual detainees need to come together and find a weakness in the system, since the elderly man's death proves that errors do exist. Following this, he goes live and tells the audience about what happened. He points out the peculiarities in the system, where obscure functions sometimes appear, and if they can use these functions to hack, the bunker could open. Not long after, the yoga instructor, 28, contacts 14 and expresses that she liked his speech. After a brief conversation, 28 falls asleep while 14 and 11 begin to check other channels. They are glad that several fellow detainees are supporting them in finding the errors. In the following scene, 28 starts her yoga session. During this, she talks to 14, saying that he gained popularity because he makes people smile, which is incredibly important. Not as important as my bum when I do tree pose, but important nonetheless. As their conversation unfolds, she invites him to join her in yoga, which he agrees to. But moments later, Energy intervenes and asks them to get to work instead of chatting. For the next few days, Energy continues to check other channels to gather information about the errors. Eventually, she finds some cool things, such as controlling the ventilation system and even moving the walls. These discoveries make her realize that the rooms are located at different distances, so she decides to make a map of the place and bring it down. She shares her plan with 14, but the latter isn't excited like before. Apparently, 28 made him believe that happiness is crucial in whatever they do. He then tells her that some people are happy here, so they shouldn't break their joy. However, 11 dismisses him and continues to trim her hair as a sign of defiance. That very night, 28 starts her yoga session, but this annoys 11. Consequently, she confronts the yoga instructor, claiming that the night streams are disrespectful as they prevent others from sleeping. A confrontation soon follows between the two women, and 28 accuses 11 of treating other bloggers like her puppets. Hearing the commotion, 14 intervenes to stop them. At this point, he starts seeing 11 as point again and decides to do something. He goes live and asks all the other bloggers to send him 1 point. Here, an error occurs, and his points start increasing rapidly. This angers the yoga instructor, and she calls him a thief. The fight escalates, and 11 makes it rain inside 28's room in retaliation. She enters a command to increase the heat of their light, which causes 11's room to catch fire. Not long after, 11 is engulfed by flames, just like 73 before her screen goes off. After seeing this, 14 falls to his knees and breaks down in tears. But then, a door mysteriously opens behind him, revealing a bright, sunny day. In a state of disbelief, he goes to look out of the door when the screen suddenly beeps. He then returns to tell the other bloggers that they did it. However, his joy is short-lived as the door closes, trapping him once again.